November 9th, 1979. A head-on collision on a rural Oklahoma highway. Metal twisting, glass shattering. A woman's face unrecognizable through blood and wreckage. Doctors gave her a 10% chance of survival. 17 surgeries, months of learning to walk again. 6 years later, that same woman would stand before 140,000 Cherokee people and become their first female principal chief in 150 years of modern tribal history. Her name was Wilma Mankiller. And this is the story of how a girl born in poverty, stripped of her homeland, nearly killed by tragedy, rose to change an entire nation. But to understand how Wilma Mankiller became a legend, we have to go back to the hills of eastern Oklahoma, back to a time when her family had nothing except each other. This is a story of resilience, of identity, of a woman who refused to be broken. This is the story of Wilma Mankiller. November 18th, 1945. In a small rural community called Mankiller Flats in Adair County, Oklahoma, a baby girl entered the world. Her parents, Charlie and Irene Mankiller, named her Wilma Pearl. Yes, Mankiller. It wasn't a nickname, it was an ancestral Cherokee title of honor, a military rank given to protectors of the village. The name that would later grace headlines had been in her family for generations. Poverty. Wilma was the 6th child of 11. They lived without electricity, without running water. Their home, a 4-room house on Mankiller Flats, was built by her grandfather on tribal land allotted after the Trail of Tears. They were poor, profoundly poor. But in those hills, Wilma learned something money couldn't buy. She learned the Cherokee principle of gadugi, working together for the common good. She watched neighbors help neighbors, families share what little they had, community as survival. Community. Wilma's father, Charlie, was full-blood Cherokee. Her mother, Irene, was of Dutch-Irish descent. Wilma grew up bilingual, speaking Cherokee and English. She listened to elders tell stories of the Trail of Tears, of ancestors who died marching 1,000 miles in winter. But she learned something else, that Cherokee women had once held power. Before European contact, Cherokee society was matrilineal. Women owned property, chose leaders, made decisions. That knowledge became her compass. 1956. Wilma was 11 years old. That year, a government official knocked on the Mankiller door with a promise.
Opportunity, jobs, better education, a new life in California. It was a lie. The journey west. The Bureau of Indian Affairs had launched the Indian Relocation Act of 1956, a program designed to assimilate Native Americans by moving them from reservations to cities, break up the tribes, erase the culture. The Mankiller family, all 13 of them, were loaded onto a train. Destination, San Francisco, California. Wilma watched through the window as the hills of Oklahoma disappeared, the land where her grandfather was buried, the community that had raised her, the only home she'd ever known. She was 11 years old, and her childhood was over. Culture shock. San Francisco's Tenderloin district, cramped apartment, city noise, concrete everywhere. Wilma was bullied at school, mocked for her name, for her accent, for being Indian. She went from a Cherokee-speaking community to a place where her identity was a target. But Wilma didn't break. She adapted. She studied. She watched. And deep inside, she began to burn with a question. Why were her people scattered? Why were they ashamed? Why had they been made invisible? That question would ignite a revolution. The 1960s, America was on fire. Civil rights, anti-war protests, and for Native Americans, a reawakening. 1969, Wilma Mankiller, now a young mother of 2 daughters, heard about something extraordinary. A group of Native American activists had seized Alcatraz, the abandoned federal prison in San Francisco Bay. Their message? You took our land, we're taking this back. The occupation of Alcatraz lasted 19 months. Wilma visited the island. She met activists from dozens of tribes. She saw Native people, proud, organized, demanding justice. For the first time since leaving Oklahoma, Wilma felt awakened. She volunteered, fundraised, joined the movement. The shy Cherokee girl who'd been bullied for her identity was now wearing it as armor. Personal transformation. Wilma later said, I became aware of the inconsistencies in the government's treatment of Indian people. I also became aware of my own potential for leadership. But activism came with a cost. Her marriage, already strained, collapsed. She was a single mother, trying to balance raising her daughters with fighting for her people. And in 1977, Wilma made a decision. She was going home. Back to Oklahoma, back to the Cherokee Nation, back to her roots. Homecoming and tragedy. 1977, Wilma Mankiller returned to Mankiller Flats with her daughters. She enrolled in graduate school at the University of Arkansas. She began working for the Cherokee Nation, developing rural water systems, clinics, community programs. She was building, creating, serving her people in tangible ways. And then she met Charlie Soap, a Cherokee community organizer. They fell in love, partners in life and in work. The accident. November 9th, 1979, a Friday morning. Wilma was driving on a rural highway near Tahlequah, the Cherokee capital. A car crossed the center line, head-on collision. The other driver was Wilma's best friend, Sherry. Sherry died instantly. Her face was crushed, her ribs shattered, her legs mangled. Emergency responders didn't think she'd survive the ambulance ride. She endured 17 surgeries, months in the hospital, physical therapy to relearn walking. But the physical pain wasn't the worst of it. She had killed her best friend. Survivor's guilt consumed her, depression, PTSD. She questioned everything. And just as she was beginning to recover, another blow. Myasthenia gravis. 1980. While still recovering from the accident, Wilma began experiencing new symptoms: muscle weakness, difficulty swallowing, double vision. The diagnosis? Myasthenia gravis, a chronic autoimmune disorder where the body attacks its own muscles. There's no cure. Without treatment, it's fatal. Wilma Mankiller had survived poverty, forced relocation, a near-fatal accident, and now her own body was betraying her. She could have given up. No one would have blamed her. Instead, she chose to fight. She later wrote, I knew I had to make a choice. I could die spiritually and emotionally, or I could try to seek life. Wilma Mankiller chose life, and she chose to dedicate that life to her people. 1981. Still recovering, still battling her illness, Wilma launched the Bell Community Revitalization Project. Bell, Oklahoma, a tiny, impoverished Cherokee community. No running water, no hope. Wilma didn't bring government contractors. She brought Gadugi, the Cherokee principle of working together.
Grassroots success. She convinced community members to volunteer their labor. She secured grants for materials, Together, they built a 16-mile water line, renovated homes, created community spaces. Bell transformed, and Cherokee Nation leadership took notice. In 1983, Principal Chief Ross Swimmer asked Wilma to run as his deputy chief. A woman as deputy chief? Many Cherokee citizens were skeptical. Some were openly hostile. Wilma received death threats. Her tires were slashed. People said a woman couldn't lead. But Wilma had built water lines in Bell. She'd survived death twice. She campaigned on results, on service, on gadugi. She won. In 1983, Wilma Mankiller became the first female deputy principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. 1985. Chief Ross Swimmer accepted a position with the federal government. Under Cherokee law, Deputy Chief Mankiller would assume his position. On December 5, 1985, Wilma Mankiller became Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation, the first woman to lead a major Native American tribe in modern history. The backlash. Not everyone celebrated. Traditional-minded Cherokee citizens protested. Women shouldn't lead, they said. Ironic, given Cherokee women had led for centuries before European contact. But Wilma didn't argue. She worked. The 1987 election. 1987. Wilma had to run for election in her own right. This time, she wouldn't inherit the position. She'd have to win it. She campaigned on her record: economic development, healthcare expansion, education programs. Election night. The results came in. Wilma Mankiller won with 83% of the vote. The Cherokee Nation, 140,000 citizens strong, had spoken. They didn't just accept a female chief, they embraced her. As principal chief, Wilma transformed the Cherokee Nation. She doubled tribal enrollment, increased employment, built health clinics, children's programs, education initiatives. She negotiated with the federal government, demanding respect, resources, sovereignty. She created the Cherokee Nation's first tribal tax system, expanded the Cherokee court system, protected Cherokee language and culture. The world took notice. Ms. Magazine named her Woman of the Year. She received honorary degrees. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. In 1993, President Bill Clinton awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. 1991, Wilma ran for re-election. She won again, this time unopposed. A woman who'd been told she couldn't lead was now so effective that no one dared challenge her. She served until 1995, stepping down due to her declining health. 10 years as principal chief, a decade of transformation. Wilma's body never stopped fighting her. Myasthenia gravis, a kidney transplant in 1990, her brother donated his kidney. Later, kidney cancer, then lymphoma. But she kept speaking, writing, advocating. She published her autobiography. She mentored young Native leaders. She refused to stop serving. April 6, 2010, Wilma Mankiller passed away at her home in Oklahoma. She was 64 years old. Thousands attended her funeral. Cherokee citizens wept. Leaders from across Indian country came to honor her. Chief Chad Smith said, "She changed the direction of our tribe forever." Today, the Cherokee Nation is the largest tribe in the United States, over 400,000 enrolled citizens, a billion-dollar economy, world-class health care and education. Wilma Mankiller laid that foundation. But her legacy transcends the Cherokee Nation. She proved that women, Native women, could lead with power, compassion, and effectiveness. Since Wilma, dozens of tribes have elected female chiefs. She broke a barrier that freed generations. Wilma Mankiller was born in poverty, stripped from her homeland as a child, nearly killed in a car crash, battled terminal illness her entire adult life. And she became one of the most transformative leaders in American history. Her life teaches us, your circumstances don't define you, your response to them does. Wilma once said, "I want to be remembered as someone who used whatever talent she had to do her work to the very best of her ability." She did more than that. She changed a nation. She inspired a world. And her spirit will never die. If Wilma Mankiller's story moved you, share this video. Let her legacy reach others. Subscribe for more untold stories of American heroes. And remember, you have power. Use it.